Hey everyone, hope you are doing well. Today I'm going to go through these 6 questions and it's basically solving quadratics with factorization. Why do I say with factorization? Because there are other ways you can solve more complex quadratics that don't factorize, and that would be with, I believe it's called the quadratic formula or quadratic equation. Now we won't be going over that today, but we will be using the factorization technique. I'm going to go through these 6 questions, which I haven't attempted yet. I thought it'd be cool to go through them with you guys, and whether you have no experience or lots of experience with quadratics, you can hopefully do this along at home. You can try to answer the questions as I go through them, and hopefully you can learn something by the end of the video. So I will be showing you the techniques and explaining everything as we go. So if you have no experience, it doesn't matter. And yeah, let's jump into these questions. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but I just went to Google and I asked for 6 increasingly difficult or increasing difficulty questions. So hopefully I'll be able to solve them. Yeah, let's get into it and see what happens. So question number 1, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. So if you didn't know, we have to, actually the first thing I'll probably show you guys is that this is what factorization looks like. So we want to put it into this so we can basically work out when this bracket is equal to 0 and this bracket is equal to 0, and it will give us our answers for x. So the way we do that is we look at this number at the end and say, how can they be times together? So I guess there's a word for it, what multiplications make 4? So it'd be 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So 1 times 4 and 2 times 2. So we've got every combination, and 1 times 4, that's covered by the 4 times 1, so you don't need to worry about doing it the other way around. But that is all the combinations that you can multiply to make 4. So next we need to work out how they add up to make minus 4. So they add to make this middle number here. So it's interesting because we see they add to make a negative, but they times to make a positive. So that's another good thing or important thing to take into account, is 2 negatives times together make a positive, or 2 positives times together obviously make a positive. So in this case, I have a feeling that we're going to be using 2 negative 2's because they times together to make positive 4, and they add to make minus 4x. So, and this works because when you times, I mean, maybe you can see it, but you're going to end up timesing it out. So you'd have x squared plus 4 minus 2x minus 2x. So we've just factored it. It's the same thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a way how to explain that concept. Hopefully that makes sense. That is just factorization, all we've done there. And next thing we need to do is work out when it's equal to 0. So we have 2 of the same bracket, so we actually only have to solve it once. So we'll have one solution, and that will be when x is equal to 2. So when either of these brackets is equal to 0, this holds true because it will make everything 0, so that will be equal to 0. So x is going to be equal to 2. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Hopefully it was clear. So next we have question 2, which is slightly more difficult. 12 is going to have a lot more combinations that we can make. So let's write those out first. So obviously we have 1 times 12. What do we have? 2 times 6. So you can start writing out like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can kind of go through to make sure you get everything. So 3 times 4. Then what would have 4? Well, that's 4 times 3. 5 doesn't go into it. 6 times 2. And yeah, so I think that's all our combinations. Now they times together to make positive 12. So that's fine because we've got all the combinations. And they add to make plus 7, okay? So I think it's important to note as well that if you've got 2 positives, you know you're probably just dealing with positives. But in this case, it's weird because we had the positive and the negative. So that normally hints you're going to be working with 2 negatives, if that makes sense. So anyway, So let's draw out the brackets. I feel like this one has made itself quite clear, but if you want to give it a go before I tell you the answer, you can stop the video now. But looking at this, I see we have the 12, but that's 3 times 4, but that adds to make 7. So I put that in there. And so when you times it out, it'd be 4x, 3x. So they add to make 7, but they will be met with that x when you times it out. So for that to equal to 0, x is going to be equal to minus 4, and it's also going to be equal to minus 3. And if you do want to check your answers, sub them into this equation, and if it holds true, you're right. So for example, and because I'm doing my first run, I don't want to mess this up, but let's say, for example, as x is equal to 2, 2 times 2 is 4. That's going to be equal to, so 4 minus 8 plus 4 is going to be equal to 0. So we know that one's right, and then, we can check the others as well, but I'm pretty confident that's our right answer. So question number 3. Let's draw out our brackets. So it will generally be in this form where you can do an x and an x, that's standard, unless you have a number at the start of the x squared, but we're covered out on those questions. So 1 times 10, 2 times 5, or 3, 4, and then you could do 5 times 2, but we've already got that. So yeah, you can kind of just go through one number at a time. You can be like, what about 1 times what, 2 times what, 3 times what? And you should get there quite quickly. And you normally notice that they start mirroring themselves halfway down. So once you get about halfway, you're like, oh, okay, well, we've got all combinations because it's the same combination reversed, if that makes sense. Okay, so we got minus 3x minus 10. Okay, so immediately, because there's a minus here, but there's a minus here, I have it. So we're going to be working with a positive and a negative. That's the only way you can make a negative. So we're going to have one positive, one negative. So we need the negative to be bigger than the positive because we have a negative here. And if you're not understanding, like, it will make sense. You'll start to click more and think in this way the more you do. So I think it's going to be minus 5 plus 2. And for that to be equal to 0, x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to 5. Okay? Yeah. So for example, if you have minus 2 squared, that would be 4 minus 2, blah, blah, blah. So that would become positive 6, positive 4, minus 10. So that holds true. Okay, awesome. Hopefully this makes sense. I'm always worried, like, if it doesn't make sense. But let me know if you have comments or questions. I'll try to get back to you. Hopefully I can help. I do requests sometimes, but I'm working full time at the moment, so I only have so much time, but I will try my best to get back to you and help if I can. Hopefully I'll be able to help you with any questions. Okay, so this is our first question, number 4, where we don't have an x here. So what you would do is, you would write it out. Well, actually, normally you'd write it out in any combination you could think of to start with here. But, oh, sorry, that should be 2x. So you can only write that out in one way. And it would be a 2x in one and x in the other. And you could do the 2x there, I guess, technically. But because we haven't assigned the other numbers yet, doesn't matter which bracket you put it in. But I suppose it makes sense. Doesn't matter, you can do it either way. But I think that's best practice. So 1 times 3. So immediately 1 will be positive and 1 will be negative. But somehow we've got to get to plus 5. Well, that's where this comes in. So I'll give you a sec if you want to think about this. But so how would we solve it? So we have small numbers here, but we need to get to at least 5, and we have to subtract 1. So as we need to get quite a big number positive, I'll do the plus 3 here, and we can do a negative 1 there, because the plus 6x minus 1x, that gives us 5x, okay? So that was quite nice and easy, I feel. And for that being equal to 0, so 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. I shouldn't have written it like that, actually. So 2x is going to be equal to 1. So x is equal to 1/2. Okay. And the other one is just going to be x is equal to minus 3. So yeah, that holds true. Okay. Good. Let's start on these. I'm going to need the chair to get down. Okay. Cool. So we've got 3x squared minus 14x plus 8. So what are our combinations? What are those? Okay, so 2 times 4, blah, blah, blah. And no 3, 4, that's gonna... Okay, so that's all of it. So, next thing we want to do is put the 3x... Okay, so again, that's the only combination we can do because 3 times 1 are the only, I guess what you call them, factors of 1. So we know it's going to be in this shape to start. Like with this one, it could be a 1 and a 6 and a 2 and a 3, but we'll go into that in a sec. So what's it going to be? Well, we have negative 14x. So, well, I mean, we're going to have to, actually, so we have 2 negatives because it makes a positive 8. So that means we need to use 2 negatives. But if we use the negative 8 and a plus 1, that's going to make us way less than 14, right? Because that'd be 24. So maybe if we worked with the 2 and the 4, there must be a smarter way of doing this. I feel like this is the only way for factorization. You can use a quadratic equation actually for any of these, but I guess it's just easier to factorize with these simpler ones. But you'll probably learn about that in higher level GCSE maths or A-level maths. Anyway, so I think it's going to be a negative 4 and a negative 2, because if we do a negative 4 here, sorry, I know you can't see it probably, so that would give us negative 12, negative 12x, negative 2x, so that minus 14x, that works out. So that's correct, I think. I hope so. So that's equal to 0. So when you have 3x minus 2 equal to... Let me make sure this is in frame actually. Okay, good. Because sometimes this phone decides to move. 3x minus 2 is equal to 0, so we've got 3x is equal to 2. X is equal to 2 over 3. I'm not going to try to prove that right now. I'll check it afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that should be right. So we got x is equal to 2 over 3. I mean, what would... No, I'm not going to do that. Or we got x is equal to 4. So just to not waste your guys' time, I'll probably check it afterwards with a calculator. Although I am tempted to kind of check that now. What would that be? 3 times... Be like 4 over 9. So what, 12? You know, I'm not doing that now. So those are our solutions. We got x is equal to 4 and x is equal to 2 over 3. Okay, cool. Hopefully that makes sense. This one already looks kind of long because we've got a 35. So that's going to be so many combinations, most likely. And we got 2 combinations because we've got 6. So look, we're going to have potentially a 6x times x, or 3x times 2x, because Either that is going to be equal to 0, or 0, or that is going to be equal to 0. Okay, and what are the combinations of 35? Jeez. Okay, 1 times 35. 2 doesn't go into it. I might actually skip this part. I'll skip over this part of the video. Okay, so I kind of skipped through this bit. It can't be divided by 2 or 3, so I'm pretty sure it's just 1 times 35 and 5 times 7. But again, it doesn't matter if it's not, because if we can't find a solution, we'll just go back to writing them out. So what does it need to be? We need 1 positive and 1 negative. I already think using that 35 is going to be excessive, especially if it's multiplied by something. So what about the 5 and the 7? Okay, how could we use the 5 and the 7? So maybe we could use a combination here. 1 needs to be positive and 1 needs to be negative. So that'd be 14, or geez, okay, this is actually kind of difficult doing it live. Okay, so what I did here is I had a feeling that we might be using the 3 and the 2 and the 5 and the 7. So I started writing out the combinations, like 3 times 5, 3 times 7, 2 times 5, and 2 times 7. Yeah, I noticed this feels a bit convoluted, but I really do think this is the main way you can do it. You kind of got to do process of elimination, but not realistic, because you could just use the quadratic formula in real life. So it's kind of redundant, really. Not to insult this whole technique, but anyway. So I started looking at these and I was like, okay, what has a difference of 11? So I don't know for sure yet, but I think it's going to be 2 times 5, 3 times 7. So, oh no, no, that'd be a negative. I'm sorry if this is really jarring to watch. Okay, so that's a negative plus 7. All right, what's 5 times 10? 21. Is it 9 plus 10? Oh, it's 9 plus 10, isn't it? So, all right, what are we saying? So, okay, that will give us a 6x squared. That will give us a minus 35, and that will give us, well, that will give us plus 21x, and that will give us minus 10x with the 11x working there. So 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. 3x is equal to 5x is equal to 5 over 3, or 2x plus 7 is equal to 0. 2x is equal to minus 7x is equal to minus 7 over 2. Okay, cool. Okay, so we got 3x minus 5 is equal to 0, which rearranged gives us x is equal to 5 over 3. And we got 2x plus 7 is equal to 0. So it should give us minus 7 over 2. Now, I'm not going to be able to do that by hand, but I mean, I probably could. So I feel like when I was doing the later ones, it feels like really convoluted and dragged out. But again, I think with this technique, it genuinely is it's just going to happen. There doesn't seem to be any magical way from like all the maths I've done. Like I went up to like uni level, and yeah, so I think that's probably the best way. In terms of like, in terms of exams, like depends what level you're at, but no one's going to give you one that hard. Worst case scenario would probably be like that or that. Obviously, I can't promise that, but they're not trying to trick you out or trick you up, trick you out. They're not trying to trick you up or trip you up. Sorry, they're not. They're just trying to see if you understand how to do it. So I would say, practice. Hopefully it makes sense. I guess, I don't know what I'll call this. I guess it's kind of a lesson. Again, you can leave comments if you want. I can't promise I can help you, but I can try. And best of luck with maths. And if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching the video. I need to up my watch time by a lot. I think I'm up like 1,000 hours. I need to get it to 4,000 to get full monetization. So I would appreciate that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And best of luck with maths.